Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
It's the InShow, Australia's only show dedicated to innovation from Adelaide, Australia and across the globe.
David Grice and Troy Sincock. When you hear the name The InShow, you could think that we mean inventive, inspiring, intuitive, but no, it's all about innovation. And the incredible people that really change the world that we live in. It's extraordinary that everyday people can literally come up with an idea and change everything. We've had so many ideas ourselves, and you think, someone's going to make that happen, or it's just not possible. But some people are crazy enough to go, I reckon that can happen.
But the best thing about these people is they can find the people to help them make it happen too.
Well, imagine what it was like for this organisation, because back in an era where, everyday people didn't own cars, it was quite a luxury for someone to have them. People probably wondered what was going on. They might have known someone that had a car. They might not have known anyone that had a car. And people were probably thinking, what's this whole car thing going to mean? Yeah,
and now it's everyday life. And let's look at where the vehicles or the cars are going in the future.
I mean, it really is extraordinary to think that this organisation started back in, around 1903. To think that there would be a vehicle that could fly would have been beyond comprehension. The RAA is the Royal Automobile Association, who started as a sporting car club 114 years ago. Now, David, you went to visit them and things have changed a lot in that 114 years.
Well, the fact that they're a very large organisation now of nearly 900 people, they decided to rip out the reception area of their building and they'd move that into another area of the building where there's some retail shops and a travel agency and things like that. And they've created this space within the middle of the organisation where people can come and share their ideas, and the company can create think tanks around, new and future technologies and what that's going to mean for the building of the organisation in the future.
So can I literally walk in off the street and be part of that, or do I have to be invited?
You have to be invited in. It's really for employees.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an internal thing that they're using as a way to grow and develop the business, and they're doing that from within. And the really interesting thing is that the employees that I spoke to all have been there for many years. They're not these people that go in for a year and then they're out again. One person we spoke to had been there for over 30 years.
Wow. So to think about, being an average employee in whatever area of the business you're working, and knowing that within that company you actually had a voice, that if you felt that you'd come up with something that was worth hearing, you could literally go and tell people about it, and that could change the face of the business.
It really can, and they just want to hear from their employees about what their ideas are, because you never know, these ideas might take that company to the next level. Now, we're talking to Penny Gale. She's the General Manager, Engagement and Innovation, and Ben Flink is the Senior Manager of Business Innovation. And I asked them about their new initiative, the Innovation Station, and what that actually means for the future of the organisation.
Well, the room that we're actually in is one of our kind of symbols that we're taking innovation seriously at the RAA, and it's for our internal, 850 people who work here. So this was part of when we put together our innovation strategy. One of the things we wanted to do was actually have a space that looked different from other spaces in the building. If you looked at our normal meeting rooms, they're pretty bland, shall we say, and a lot of them don't have any windows. So we thought, let's create a space that's light and airy. Let's involve our own employees in actually putting the space together. So all the artwork you see on the walls was done by our employees.
Wow.
And this actually used to be the reception area. But we thought it's so important that people see that we're serious about innovation, that we ripped reception out and put that into our shop. And here, right in the middle of the building, we've created this innovation space.
Fantastic. So what is the goal or the role of the innovation department within RAA?
So the role of the innovation department is really future thinking. So we know there's a lot of changes that are occurring, technological trends, etc. Also changes from consumers, changes in society. So really our role is to incubate what we might look like in 5 to 10 years' time.
Is that a difficult thing to do, like look that far ahead? Or is that something that's, kind of naturally starting to be easy to think about?
Well, I think everybody's doing it now. And I suppose what's different for us is how we are engaging with our members. So you'd have heard, the buzzwords like design-led thinking and human-centric design. So what we're actually doing is working with our members right at the beginning, which is very different than how we used to work with them. So once you actually understand how that works, and it's a bit of a process, it's not really that difficult. The process isn't that difficult. But what's difficult is finding what you want to actually take a bet on and say, yeah, well, perhaps this is where we want to be in 10 years' time.
So it sounds like we're talking about two different things here. One is innovation within the organisation and the other is outside of the organisation. Yes. That must be a really challenging thing to be thinking about.
No, that's why we put together a strategy. So we put together a 5-year innovation strategy, which our board signed off on, and that strategy has got 3 planks to it. One is about how do we create a more innovative culture within our organisation? How do we bring people along with us as we innovate and change? Because one thing that we all know is if you don't bring people with you, then the culture will defeat you. So that's been the focus for our first sort of year and 18 months, has actually been on ways of skilling up and giving our employees a chance to kind of shine and get on board. The second strand is around external in terms of, okay, well, who's out there? Because we only know what we know. Who are the entrepreneurs? Where are the startups? Where's the new thinking? And who we want to engage with and collaborate to give us a much more kind of universal feel and view of where things are going. And that's just a lot of fun, really, isn't it, Ben? It's not difficult.
No, it's bringing the outside in. And so, and having just come from the New Venture Institute at Flinders University, I've had the pleasure of working with, over 200 entrepreneurs over the last 4 years. So it's actually just inviting them in and bringing them into the organisation just to share their stories, share their thinking, and also bring in new, the technologies that they're working on or their new business models, and sharing that with the rest of the organisation. So we get staff going, oh, okay, that is a different way of doing that or selling that or a different way of looking at a piece of technology.
And is the hope for that to also work with these entrepreneurs and startups to try and in sort of, I guess, encourage more activity for things that you're looking for as needs in the organisation?
Yeah, it's very much about finding where our collaborators are and our partners, because we know we can't do it alone. And we, how could we compete, with some of our products and services with, say, Amazon or even Telstra or Google. So by ourselves, we need to be bringing in and working with kind of fresh minds and people who are doing different things. The other plank, because there's 3 planks of innovation here, the other one is around the sharing economy, and that's working with our members. So the whole, if you look at us, we're kind of a community of 700,000 South Australians. That's a huge community, although a lot of them don't actually see themselves as members. But how do we work with them for them to show us the way of, not what they say when we ask them questions, but to understand their behaviour as they actually go along and do things?
I would imagine that'd be quite challenging as an organisation to actually get your members to give you, feedback and all that sort of thing, or is that something really easy?
No.
I think it's fairly easy,
Yeah.
actually.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, in segments, I guess I would say. So there are some segments that are very much probably, I'd say, more passionate around being involved in what we're doing. And there are other sort of demographic groups who are probably less inclined to thinking as themselves as members or participating in that aspect. But having said that, I guess in our role, we run, I guess, what I call customer discovery sessions. So for me, it's not, there is the membership and certainly engaging with them, and that's working well, but it's also engaging with people who are not our members as well. So for me, when I say customer discovery, it's about just going out into the public domain and just finding problems that people want solved. And so I guess as long as you follow that process of just going out and observing, listening and solving problems that need to be solved.
One way, it's just another form of R&D. We can get really hung up on this word innovation. But the other thing that we have in our favour is that we have this incredible trust with the general public. We've been around for 114 years. We're the people who come and save you bacon when you're on the side of the road and your car's broken down. So there's a tremendous amount of goodwill out in the community that a lot of our sort of competitors, whether in the more commercial realm, for example, insurance businesses, they just don't have that level of trust that we do. So we're incredibly fortunate that we can actually build on that and take that with us.
And we talked about collaboration a little bit earlier. How have you seen, obviously a company like this, being around for 114 years, would have started with their own sort of silo of this is what we are and this is what we're going to do, and you would have had to shift significantly across the board, I'd say, over that period.
Except when you think about it, we have kind of risen on the back of the innovation of the 20th century, which was the motor car. So in 1903, when we sort of started, it was because there were early adopters of people who had the first cars in South Australia, and they wanted to get together and show off and run race and, have driving competitions, etc. And that kind of innovation grew and grew and grew. So we naturally grew with it. We put in, it's like anything. If you look at Uber, if you look at Airbnb, when they first started those businesses was to solve a local problem.
Yeah.
So we were solving a local problem. This group of people were solving it for themselves. So we started in the way that any entrepreneur really starts a business.
Yeah, you're right.
We just did that 114 years ago.
That's right. It's amazing. So are you feeling now that collaboration is more important than maybe in previous years?
Absolutely. I think, I've been with the RAA 8 years, and our current managing director has been in the role here for 10 years. And I think it's fair to say that before Ian came along, we kind of saw ourselves as this sort of island. We were the RAA, and we didn't really have to play with anybody if we didn't want to. But that's totally changed, I would say, over the last 10 years. We realise that it's not just about us, and we need to find those partnerships and those collaborations, because we've got older, and big old organisations do get a little internal focused, and we sort of realise, well, that's not the way the world is going, and we need to get on that bus now.
And it also brings efficiencies to the organisation as well, because I've been involved in the industrial clustering sort of thing, so where you bring multiple companies together to go and bid for high value contracts and those sorts of things. So I'm sure that by collaborating with the right people, you're actually bringing efficiency into the organisation, actually broadening the opportunities.
Yeah. Well, it's like-minded people. Okay, so we wouldn't, because we have this reputation, which we hold incredibly dear to ourselves, and close to our hearts, we're very careful about who we will collaborate and partner with. There's an ethical and a values in there for us.
You've also obviously got such a large profile in the community. What are you facing in terms of challenges around what you're seeing is coming, but also maybe internally, and in sort of getting that messaging of exactly what you are across the board out?
Well, you haven't been with us all that long, Ben, so why don't you have a shot at that?
There's a lot of things that are going on, and you're right. I've been here, less than a year, but one of my observations is that RAA is actually open to change and is changing. So even in the short time that I've been here, we've brought in new thinking about how we approach our strategic planning. And as a part of that, there's been a change to thinking about how we look at our different business units. So we've got multiple business units that are at different stages of scale. And actually, so now we're sort of rethinking about how we treat those different business units. So when you're talking about the efficiencies, if you look at our old businesses such as the roadside business or the insurance business, it's certainly about really commercially driven, getting really efficient. We know exactly what we're doing in those businesses. Whereas in terms of some of our newer businesses such as travel or the secure services area, they're still quite small, in comparison, and so they need a bit more scope to test things, to grow, to scale, etc. So they need to be treated sort of differently. And then there's kind of where my role comes in is, well, what's the next thing, which is, really at that micro level where we just need to have be open to experimenting. So listening to customers, to members, finding those problems, and sort of coming up with ideas around how we might solve that problem, what aligns to what would work for us, what are our core competencies, what we can do, and then sort of developing up, what's the potential new business, and then sort of testing that and piloting that.
Are you generally starting that with a problem first, or
yes? What is the problem to be solved?
Yeah.
Yes, but in terms of our insurance business, which is a really successful business in this state, and that's, as Ben said, it's a commercial business, but it comes out of the ethos of us being a mutual organisation. So we offer incredible customer service. If you are unfortunate enough to actually need to call on us, people we have something like 94% customer satisfaction with our
That's
insurance
amazing.
business.
Yeah.
And we won't put up our premiums. We don't every year say, okay, they've got to go up again. And I think that's driven from the board. The board thinks that's very important. But that's part of the reason why we're so successful. You hear a lot of talk around if you put people before profit, the money will follow. I mean, a lot of commercial businesses, they find that really hard to do. But I think our insurance company is actually a great example of that.
That's the beauty of not being answering to shareholders. We're not driven by profit. I mean, we do need to make a profit to be sustainable, but it's not we're not answering to shareholders to drive up costs for the customer.
And the profits, from the insurance company go back into our members as well. I think why we have such a low turnover of staff at the RAA, because it is such a great place to work, because people come to work with a sense of purpose.
Well, I mean, we've been talking with Mark, who's been here for 30 odd years, and you've been here for 10, and many of the employees, it seems, just when you start, you don't want to go.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be here this long.
That's great. So, is there anything that you're working on now from an innovation point of view within the organisation that you're able to share with us?
So the two key areas we are working on. So the first one is the sharing economy, which is really connecting members to members and what might members want to do with each other. That's still at very early stages, and there are sort of 5 key categories that are in that sort of sharing economy platforms. It's such a big area. So, there's lending things to people, there's doing things for people, there's moving people around, lending money. So we're still at the very early stages of sort of discovering what our members would like to do with each other. The second part that we're looking at is both in terms of advocacy, which is certainly within Penny's business unit, but also innovation, is around the home energy. So it's very topical at the moment with the cost of electricity. So again, we've been running some discovery sessions with members around what problem we could solve for them in the home and the cost of electricity for them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, because there's actually nothing really new. It's about how you look at something and put things together differently. And that's really kind of what we're doing. And that's all about what is your business model. So when we talk about bringing collaborators in or doing that peer-to-peer sharing, which is never going to be our next insurance business, it's about, well, how do we do business differently than we've done it in the past? So we're kind of examining, well, what could those different business models look like for the RAA, which comes back to the fact that we're not an island anymore. And given that, and some of it's sort of not, some of the things we're doing is not kind of third horizon or like autonomous vehicles, which are 10 years away. It's also about product extension. So we're looking in the home. We actually already provide security services in the home. We did some kind of engagement with our members and thought that there's some interest there if we actually put in kind of home assist, so tradies. So last year we launched a new product, a new service where if you need a plumber or an electrician or a handy person, we have a list that are trusted, that you come to us and we get somebody who will go out to you, and we kind of look at that a bit differently. So we will do that within a certain amount of time. And, it's a really often frustrating when you get somebody in to come and do something around your house and they can't tell you they're going to be there between 9 and 5 and they can't tell you when. Yeah. So our aim is, and what we're doing is actually improving that experience for our member or the customer.
And that kind of feeds into the insurance as well, I would assume, especially around the fact that people have their homes insured with the RAA.
Yes.
And then to be able to then say, well, we can provide you a tradesman, the water service is smashed in my roof or whatever it is. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're also looking at business improvement within the business. So as you can imagine, after 114 years, we're probably there could be places that could work better than they did. So we've got a big focus on, over 5 years, to find $13 million worth of efficiencies in our business, try and get rid of the dead wood, or where we're perhaps a bit more generous than we could be, the way we run the business. So that's another area of focus for us at the moment too.
And we touched on autonomous vehicles just a moment ago. that's obviously going to present its own set of challenges to a service organisation, especially around the roadside assistance and that sort of thing. And I don't think people actually realise how difficult that is going to make things.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's really why we got on this whole kind of innovation bandwagon in the first place, because we can see what's coming. And we don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but it's probably not going to be as long as we think. I mean, if you look at the technology in cars improving it now, that with crash avoidance, so that not just doesn't affect our roadside assistance business, but also our insurance. So you don't need car insurance anymore. So our two kind of pillars are definitely under threat in the medium-ish term. Yeah.
And how's that sort of feeling in terms of what that future looks like? It's obviously quite a serious sort of threat to a couple of pillars of your business, but obviously this whole innovation department within the organisation is about addressing that and really making positive steps towards.
Yeah, and our insurance business itself is really focused on this as well. But yeah, it's an incredible threat and a fantastic challenge.
And it's complex, it's unknown, and so in my role, it's about bringing in entrepreneurs and startups who are playing in that space with new ideas, new concepts, new models, and really sort of exploring what role we might play in that new field. And so we've got to be in it to have some sort of role. So we've got to start, running some experiments or trying some things in that space.
And we're lucky that, we're not going to be like a Kodak moment. We haven't got our heads buried in the sand. We can see the future come towards us, and, we want to be well prepared, whether it's the resilience of our workforce or having identified new products and services that we want to give a go.
I can certainly see how that's sort of definitely with what I've seen so far with what you guys are doing. It's just so exciting. So if I'm a startup and I want to engage with the RAA in some way, what are you guys actually looking for at the minute?
Well, it could be anything. I mean, the thing about innovation is it's not just about technology. You can innovate anyway and anywhere. We figure that we'll still probably be in the kind of business that we're in now. So it's probably going to be something about mobility or something about the home we went out and asked our members about a year ago, well, what's your why? Why are you a member of the RAA? And they said it's about peace of mind.
Right.
So it's something that fits in and kind of reinforces what it is that our members are looking for from us.
And are you looking for startups to come to you and engage with you?
Absolutely, yeah. And they do every week. So
So for somebody that's listening to this now, and they're based in Brazil and they've got an amazing idea that could help you, are you open to some internationals coming in and being involved as well?
Well, that's a really good entry into in talking about car clubs. So we're part of a global community, which is the FIA. So we collaborate nationally with all the other car clubs across the states, but also internationally, which is fantastic. So if there is a startup in Brazil, I'd certainly encourage them to contact if they've got something in this space, they can come to us, but also to contact who are they in Brazil?
Yeah, there is an automobile association in Brazil as well.
And we're all going through the same challenges across the globe, okay? Autonomous vehicles, connected cars, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to impact us all. So we are open to working on this together, actually.
So how do we get in touch with you if we need to?
Well, just you can send an email to innovation@raa.com.au and we'll get back to you within the next day.
Fantastic. And we'll put that up on the InShow website as well for anybody who wants to just go back and get that link. So that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ben and Penny, for being with us today. Really inspired by what you guys are doing, not only within the organisation but outside of that, and just encouraged by the fact that a trusted brand is continually reinventing, and I think that's that inspires me because being in business for so long, that constant reinvention is something that's often missed, and I think that's really important for us to all hear about. So thanks so much for joining us on the InShow.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
It's David Grice and Troy Sincock on the InShow podcast. Make sure you subscribe to iTunes and listen to the InShow podcast for more innovations. Now, tomorrow we find out what's in, and what's fascinating when we ask that question of the people that we've spoken to on the InShow, Sometimes it's about the world they live, and sometimes they're seeking, they're finding inspiration in a completely different industry.
And tomorrow we've got Nick Condon from Business SA. Now, he's telling us about artificial intelligence and analysing data and understanding what that means for business.
Hear more on the next InShow podcast.
The InShow Interview. Subscribe to the InShow podcast on iTunes. A Dave and the Beanstalk production.
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.